There are specific things high-value men do that sets them apart from all other men. From their unconventional attributes to their bizarre habits, there's always something new to discover and explore about them. Since they are at the top 1% of all men in the world, people are not accustomed to such a personality, and these men are oftentimes misunderstood. While many of their behaviors may be unorthodox, there is usually a perfectly good explanation for why they do things the way they do. Whether you're a high-value man yourself or just curious about what makes them so special, you wouldn't want to miss out on this. So with that said, here are 8 odd things all high-value men do that normal people don't understand. Number 1. They only overshare to a small circle. These men are very selective with the people they let into their inner circle. They don't just open up to anyone. They only share their thoughts and opinions with the people they trust. They are very private individuals, and don't like to share too much about themselves with others. This is because they understand that not everyone is deserving of their trust. They may have been burned in the past by people who they thought were their friends. So now they are very cautious about who they let into their lives. Their preference is quality over quantity. When it comes to relationships, high-value men are very loyal to their friends and loved ones, and will do anything for the people they care about. However, they won't hesitate to cut someone out of their life, if they feel like that person is toxic or harmful to them in any way. This won't happen often, however when it does, these men will move on and never look back. Number 2. They never answer the door. High-value men are masters of discretion, so it comes to no surprise that they oftentimes avoid answering the door when someone rings their doorbell. If they don't know the person, they'll usually pretend they're not home in order to avoid any unwanted interactions. They do this to avoid solicitors or door-to-door salesmen, however it can also be a way to keep their solitude. This doesn't mean they're paranoid, they just value their solitude and alone time more than most people. They don't like being distracted when they're focusing on something or don't feel like chatting, so they'll oftentimes use this strategy to stay in their own little world. While it may seem impolite to some, it's actually a pretty smart way to avoid any unwanted interruptions. People don't usually take kindly to being ignored, however these men don't really care about that. It's not like they're trying to be disrespectful, they're just focused on something and don't have time for surface chatter. Number 3. They don't smile often. While some people may think that men of high value are always serious and never crack a smile, this isn't necessarily true. They just don't see the point in smiling all the time like some people do. This doesn't mean that they're unhappy or not enjoying themselves. These men tend to be very introverted. They're not the type of people who feel the need to outwardly express their emotions all the time. They are oftentimes mistaken for being disconnected or aloof, when in fact they are just deep in thought. They process their thoughts internally, and prefer to keep their ideas and feelings to themselves. These guys don't need to have a grin on their face to show they're having a good time. They're perfectly satisfied enjoying the moment without needing to share it with everyone around them. While men of low value are oftentimes loud and expressive, high-value men are more reserved and introspective. Number 4. They loathe the company of boring and dramatic people. There's nothing worse for these men than being stuck in a room with someone who has nothing interesting to say, or constantly complaining about their problems. Life is too short to waste time on energy vampires who are just plain exhausting. High-value men prefer to surround themselves with people who are captivating, inspiring, and who can amuse them. They need to be in control of their environment, and don't want to be drawn into a situation that they can't control. They are oftentimes very independent, and aren't interested in being around needy or clingy people. While this may seem like a cold way to view the world, it actually makes perfect sense, when you consider that high-value men are oftentimes successful, and don't want anything or anyone to derail their progress. Number 5. They may avoid phone calls. High-value men are not fond of talking on the phone, so they may let calls go to voicemail or even avoid them altogether. They would rather text or talk in person, since most of the time it's more efficient and they don't have to waste time on added pleasantries. Small talk is not their thing, so they would rather just get to the point. And while this may seem rude to some people, it's actually just a preference. These men aren't trying to be impolite. They're just not interested in talking on the phone all the time. If it's something important, they will definitely answer. However, if it's not, they're not going to waste their time. If you're trying to reach these guys, don't take it personally if they don't pick up. It's not that they don't enjoy you or your company, it's just that they operate on their own terms. They will not change their schedule or plans just to appease you. So if you want to get in touch with these guys, your best bet is to send them a text. That way they can reply on their own time, and according to their own schedule. Number 6. They change directions to avoid interaction with a loudmouth. Loudmouth people are a real pain in the neck for these guys. They are always talking, always trying to be the center of attention, and they never seem to know when to stop. They're loud, obnoxious, and just plain irritating. If they get caught in a conversation with one of these people, it will be very difficult to escape and waste their time. So instead they'll change directions, cross the street, or do whatever it takes to avoid them. These men value their time, and would rather not waste it on people who drain their energy. It's not that they don't like talking to people, they just prefer to speak to people they actually have something in common with. Many people take this behavior the wrong way, and think that high-value men are snobs, however they really hate small talk or anything that feels like a waste of time. We all know that kind of person who just loves to hear themselves talk, and these men would rather avoid those people at all costs. Number 7. They don't respond well to compliments. It's not that these men don't like hearing good things about themselves. Of course, it feels nice to be recognized for doing something well. However, sometimes compliments can feel like a trap, or the delivery can be unappealing. High-value men are oftentimes very humble, and don't need validation from others to feel good about themselves. They know their own worth and don't need others to tell them what they're doing right. They also don't like when people try to butter them up, or flatter them just to get something in return. This is a huge turn-off for these men, and they will quickly see through it. And while compliments are designed to make people feel good, many high-value men don't like being told they're smart or good at something. Most of them already know that they're smart. What makes them feel good is when people listen to them, and follow their advice. It's alright to compliment these guys every now and again, however you should use those compliments sparingly. If you try and compliment them all the time, they may not take any of your compliments seriously. Number 8. They prefer being a spectator. While some people might see this as a negative trait, these men oftentimes prefer to take a backseat and observe. They would rather watch other people interact than participate themselves. This is because they like to understand how people work and what motivates them. They find it more interesting to sit back and take everything in, rather than be in the middle of the action. This doesn't mean that these men don't like to participate in activities. They just prefer to do so on their own terms. They don't want to be forced into anything, and like to have a clear understanding of what's going on before they jump in with both feet. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. High-value men live by this motto, and would much rather listen to others than talk about themselves. They can learn a lot about people just by listening to them and watching their body language. This helps them to understand people better, and figure out what they want or need,